I don't want to regret not doing something, because what if I get to like 80 and I haven't done anything,
You're on your deathbed and you're like, what
Yeah,
the
and
hell?
I'd be like,
do
why
that?
didn't I do anything? So that kind of gave me the kick that I needed. And I thought, I don't want to regret anything. And I just thought to myself, I'm just going to hand him a notice. I just made my mind up. I'm going to hand him a notice.
The Perspective Podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, overcoming the inner critic, and growing your creative business. PC family, today on the show, we have my brother Ian Paget, aka the Logo Geek, on for the very first time. Welcome to the Perspective Podcast. How you doing today?
Hey, Scotty. I'm really honored to be on, and I can't wait to catch up and speak to you because it's been a while. We both, I think since we last spoke, we both gone full time. So I'm looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, so much has happened. Yeah, you had me on your podcast. It was like last November. And I think the day we recorded, I'm like, yeah, I just lost my job. It was like a week after losing my job, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go full time and just do my thing. But here's my compliment to you, sir. So anybody who's watching the video, you know how big of a Pokemon nerd I have been growing up. And this dude has like Ultra Balls, Great Balls, Pokeballs all over his t-shirt right now. So I would love to commend you for showing up just swagged out and dripping in some Pokemon.
I'm slightly obsessed with Pokemon Go. I play it every day. So yeah,
that's hilarious.
Pokemon t-shirt has to be worn.
I had to fun fact, I had to give up. Pokemon Go was the last video game I played. I've given up all video games. I stopped playing games for a while, but then that came out. I started picking it up, but I had to quit it. It was the summer of 2016, right when it came out, because it was holding me back from getting the podcast out. I said in April 2016, I was going to do the podcast, and I kept putting it off because I was scared, imposter syndrome. And then Pokemon Go came out. I'm like, oh shit. I'm just going to go play this all day. And finally, I'm like, this is holding me back. I got an August 12th start date. No more Pokemon Go. And I haven't played a video game since, but I'm giving myself permission at the end of this year, after a full year of being self-employed, to get a Nintendo Switch, and I'm getting Pokemon Sword and Shield.
So, yeah, you should. I think it's good to have a little bit of downtime. As important as it is to work hard, I personally don't agree with Gary V's hustle mode. I think it's important
smart
to chill
hustle
out
over here, man. I did the Gary V style, and I burnt myself out. It's dangerous doing that.
Yeah,
we're pacing ourselves here, man. So for those who don't know about you, give a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a graphic designer, and most people know me online now as Logo Geek. Logo Geek is something that I started about 8 years ago on the side of a full-time creative director role, where I was working on web design and stuff like that. But about 3-4 years ago now, I went part-time with Logo Geek, and as of March this year, now it's my full-time thing. So I design logos and identities for clients. I have a podcast about logo design. I have a community about logo design, and basically I've got to a point now where logo design has pretty much become my entire life. Something that started off as a bit of a hobby, a little bit of fun, is now a real passion project that is my full-time gig. So I'm lucky to be in this opportunity.
and man, I see so much as more you were put on my radar by Diane as well, and then you had me on, and then I got to hear more of your story. I'm like, wow, I see so much of parallel in my story to your story. So where did I want to get to the shift of leaving the day job and setting the runway and tips and advice for other people who be in that position. But before we get to that, why logos in the first place? Why design in the first place? And how did it happen of how I'm really interested in this? I'm going to make time, carve out time outside of my schedule and being married or having a girlfriend or whatever it is at the time, partner. And then just pursuing something on the side without knowing what it's going to result or turn into.
Okay, this is probably quite a big story, but I'll try and condense it down. So, um, I've always been into art and graphic design, and I was quite lucky early on when I was about 19, 20 to get a graphic design job without any qualifications. But on the side of my job, I've liked to work on like just projects just for fun. And early on, that used to be like CD artwork. I've done movie posters, all sorts of bits and pieces. But when I was in my early 20s, I started volunteering at this club in Swindon, founded by the council in the area, and it was set up by a couple of guys who were animators. And I worked with them. We collaborated together on like a computer game project, and that was like a long-term fun project. It was an iPhone game, and it's the type of thing where you just build it, you put it out there, and you hope that it makes some money. But they were originally animators, then they started building apps and games, and we collaborated on this project for almost 4 years, kind of on and off between lots of different things. And that just got me used to going to work and coming home and working on some kind of project in some way. But it was at the end of that project that I just got to a point where I just felt so exhausted doing a full-time job that was very demanding, and then coming home and working, every evening, and it was tiring. So I kind of thought to myself, no more side projects, at least nothing of that scale anyway. And a couple of weeks passed by, and I wanted a project again. I was kind of had that
Only a
little
couple weeks, so
bug.
you had the itch. So you gave yourself some time away.
Yeah, and I was talking to my partner at the time about it, and she actually said to me, "Ian, you're really good at logo design." It was something that I did a little bit of in my job at the time, um, and I'd done the logos on those game projects, and it's something that I really enjoyed. It had a nice balance between like something I did at my job at that time was like technical illustrations of medical products, and I really enjoyed that. And I always enjoyed projects that was a little bit more complicated than just doing a drawing, and I felt like logo design had that balance between all of those things that I enjoyed. It had the illustration, it had the technical aspect, and like understanding the brief and communicating it in some way. And the uh, main thing with logo design at that time, my first thought was, oh yeah, this is like a nice, easy project. I could take one on, and after like 2 weeks, it would be done. And like I said, it was something that I really enjoyed in my full-time job. But because that was primarily like a web design job, we had logo projects come in, but they would be like once every 2 or 3 months. And every time they come in, I really enjoyed it. And then like 2 or 3 months would pass. And then I'd feel like I have to learn this new skill again. And I've always, well, prior to more recent times, any project I did at home was just for fun. There was no big plan of going freelance or anything like this. It was just
Monetizing it with the pressure of
no,
doing
no,
that.
no,
Yeah.
no plan or anything like that. So early on, I just started working with friends, with family, and it eventually grew and grew and grew to the point where I had loads of inquiries, telephone kept ringing, and I just really felt torn between the two things, between a full-time job um, and this thing I built. And I got to a point where I eventually took the leap. I can't remember exactly what the original question was now, but hopefully I answered it. I think it was, why did I get into logo?
Yeah. How did it get started? So like, when did you officially label yourself as Logo Geek? And were you even monetizing
Sure,
your
sure.
work from there? Because like for me, Perspective Collective was just I guess an alias, a moniker for me to just like hide behind and just posting my artwork on Instagram. Like I wasn't monetizing at the beginning. It was just I didn't like the name Scotty.D.Russell Designs. So I went the more perspective route. I like alliterations and rhyming.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it just worked for me at that time. You know,
Yeah, yeah. So
where
I
did
can I
Logo
can
Geek come from?
share I can
Let's
share where
build out. I want to
Logo
build out
Geek.
this
Yeah,
timeline. Is
sure,
basically what
sure,
I want to
sure.
do.
Okay, so after I came up with this idea of working on logo design projects, it just happened that in my full-time job, I was at that time like lead graphic designer working for a web design agency, and there was also a team like right next to me in the office that were like a search engine optimization team. So just sat there in the room, you hear conversations, you pick up stuff, and I know I needed a website. And at that time, it's different now, but at that
What
time,
year would this
you
have been? Sorry to interrupt you.
probably about 8 years ago,
So like
around that.
2012, around that
I
time.
guess so, yeah.
Okay.
So I needed a URL with logo or logo design in it because I would want to work to rank this to show up on
That
Google. So I
SEO
needed that.
keyword. Yep.
Yeah. So if at that time it's irrelevant now, but at that time, if the keyword was in the domain, so if you got basically logodesign.com, you would probably rank right away for that word just because it's the exact domain match. But that's different now. But anyway, so at that time, I was looking for a name to use for my website, and I wrote down hundreds of names, all these different names, and I sat down on 123 Reg, and I needed either the .co.uk or the .com, and every single thing on my list was taken. It was driving me nuts, to be honest, because I had all these really cool ideas, and they were all taken. It's different now because we've got more domains now. There's lots of things available, so I think it's easier now. But at that time, if the .co.uk wasn't there, it's like can't take it. And I think it was like on the bottom of my list. I had Logo Geek, and I am like, that is not going to be there. I almost didn't check because I thought there was no way Logo Geek is going to be there, and it was available. I wasn't sure if it was the right thing, but I thought that's a cool domain to own. Even if I just own it and sell it on at some point, I just registered it. And um, yeah, so that was kind of step one. That's where the name came from. There was no like bigger plan. It was just available, and I registered it. And then after that, I threw what I would think now is like a rubbish website together. I just uh, uh, built a very simple uh, site, and I pulled together the bits and pieces that I did personal projects because I couldn't use any of the stuff that I did at the agency. So none of it was that great, but I thought, and this is just for me. I'm just going to put on there what I've done, and created a logo for myself. And at that point, it was like this little light bulb thing. It was horrible. But I put this website together, wrote some quick content. I put a couple of blogs on there. It was full of spelling mistakes, so I wasn't even that good at writing at that point. And
It's like my life. I'm the typo king.
yeah. So yeah, I threw it all on there, and I started mentioning that I was doing logo designs to like friends, and I think I might have posted it on Facebook, and I had like an old school friend get in touch. He was starting his own little thing, and he needed a logo for that, and just did it cheap because, like I said, this was just for fun. I didn't really need the money because I had a full-time job. I just wanted something to work on. So I think I did that for like £50. It was really cheap. Um, and then I did some other bits and pieces for friends, and then that extended to very old work colleagues that I haven't seen in years needing something, and those projects were a little bit more serious. And then each project I did, I put on my website, and one day,
Would you build out like a
unexpectedly,
case study for people each time, or was it just like, here's the final
I
peg?
think at that
Like,
point I
how in
might have
depth
just
was this at the
put the
beginning?
image. I think I'd probably just put the image
Okay,
online.
just the final static
And
2D JPEG eye candy.
to be honest, I might have done a really quick case study.
Okay.
And sometimes I can't remember when I started doing it, but sometimes I would write a blog about like the process. So what
Okay.
I was doing just
That,
for
and
myself. And
I ask because I'm trying to like plant these little seeds of someone else getting started.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Okay.
So I put like a case study, and then to go with the case study, I would do a blog writing about it. And like I said, this was mainly for me. The website had spelling mistakes on it. There was nothing special about it. I didn't think anyone would see it. And then out of the blue, just one day, someone I did not know sent me an inquiry, and I hadn't ever anticipated that this would happen. And yeah, I replied. I took the project on, and it kind of planted this seed that this is like pocket money, you know? It's like extra money that you're not expecting.
How
So
much did you charge for that first like non-acquaintance
I think it
logo?
was like £100. It's
Whew,
not
start
much
small.
money, but I mean, it
I get
was
it, man.
a
I get
hundred
it.
pounds that you could spend towards a day out or a holiday or buy a games console. Like I mean, it's like now if it was you could pretty much buy a Switch with that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money if you don't expect that you're going to have it. And like a logo design project, I only took on that one project in my free time. So I didn't take on like now. Here today, I work on a number of projects simultaneously, but then I had my full-time job and this one shiny project at home. So go to work, come home. There wasn't any stress. I just, did it one like an hour or two in the evening, do that over a couple of days and put something together. I think what I sent then versus what I sent now was completely different. I think it might have almost been just like putting a JPEG image together, putting the logo in and sending that over. It was something a lot more basic in comparison to what I'm doing now. But yeah, I remember sending it over. They liked it, paid for it, done, and it was a nice, easy project. And with each project I did the same thing of putting it on my website, putting a case study together, and I think early on I would also post it on a Facebook page. I didn't have my Twitter account. I don't even think Instagram existed then.
Mm-mm.
It was just post it on Facebook, done. And it was a gradual thing. So I never put too much focus on it, but I would gradually get more and more inquiries.
So it was like
And
literally a slow and steady
yeah, it was a
scale.
slow and steady thing. And I think what really made a difference was when I started Twitter.
Okay.
And I know here today, Twitter's not what it used to be. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be like one of the main ones, but something that I started doing, like I said early on, that I would post things on Facebook, on a Facebook page, and that never really did anything. But I liked finding resources and sharing it on Facebook. And in my full-time job, they hired someone that I ended up managing who was like a social media expert. And she started doing this thing where she would post and she did that whole hacky follow unfollow thing, which is really spammy.
Yeah, it's gross.
Um, but I, um, I wanted to try the tactics that she was using on Twitter at work for my own stuff. So I started doing what I was doing on Facebook on Twitter. And quite quickly I grew a fairly decent following, and I think it was when I got to about 8,000, I got invited to be on the jury for something called Transform Awards. And what this company did, sorry, my partner just walked in and realized that I'm on a call.
Totally good, man. This is real life stuff. It's okay. We don't have to be pretty and polished here. My cat is jumping all over me while we record, so it's all good.
So what this company did, as I was a judge, they put my logo on the bottom of their website and put a link on it. And this link was on every single page of their website. And something weird happened with my website. It went from being, I thought no one could find it, to suddenly it literally jumped to page one of Google for like half a day, for a minute second. And I suddenly got all these inquiries coming in, and I'm like, the hell's called that? And I saw this spike in my traffic, in the analytics. And that was a big moment, and I put that down to those links being on that website.
Like, what year would this have been now? So it started like 2012-ish.
It was quite early on, so it was maybe 2 years later.
Okay.
Because like I said,
2 years
that
later,
website
you really
just
started
sat
seeing
there.
the big ROI of you just like putting
So
some
I didn't
time
really
as a hobby
do
into
that
something.
much. It was just now and again. So sometimes I did nothing for a period of time, but then sometimes I'd be like on a holiday, and I'd just have some chill out time. And sometimes I just like to write, and I'd sit there and write a blog or something, and I put it on my website. So there was the occasional little thing that I did, and it was really that moment when I saw that spike. It made me think, whoa, I had no idea that I could ever actually try.
Moment, like,
This is
oh
like
my
I could
God, this
actually
could be
rank.
something.
I could actually rank on Google. And it really just made me realize, okay, if I use all the stuff that I'm learning in my full-time job, I was at that agency for about 10 years, and I was in a director role eventually. But when you're doing all the marketing for the company, including the online marketing team, you just pick up so much stuff. And I got really into it. So I started learning. I started reading blogs about online marketing and all that sort of stuff. And as I was learning, I was gradually just slowly doing it to my website. And anytime I just got a little bit of time here and there, I'd tinker with it and make tweaks. And I'm still doing that today. It's just sometimes there's bigger changes that I do, but in general, it's been very small, gradual steps and
exponential, small, compounding changes, not drastic. And that, I think that's really what I'm trying to drive home here while I'm plugging at these questions, is just to show like this is a slow and steady grind full of pacing yourself, slow iterations, and revising and figuring out new ways of expanding over time. It's like a slow scale.
Yeah. And one thing I would say with like my website, at the beginning that content was bad, but you can tweak it. You can
Mine was trash
rewrite
too.
it. You can change it. Too. I paid people to proofread and stuff like that over the years. So it gradually changes, and you gradually add things, you gradually tweak things, and with like my social media audience, I made it a routine because I saw the value in having a routine that every day I would post something.
That's huge right there. Routine. Fit something into your daily routine and your process.
Yeah. So I did little things to it every day. So whether that just be post something on social media, or it could be write a sentence for that page, or most. I mean, a lot of it was social media stuff in terms of the daily things, and I'm still doing that today. I made it just it's just become part of my life.
It becomes normal once you've like fit it in. And the early days of like Twitter, what were you just sharing? Like little tidbits of like your logo process, a new logo, and then like resources of someone else's stuff, or what was the value, whether it was entertainment, inspiration, or educational, that you were sharing that people like sunk their teeth into quickly?
Yeah, so I can't remember who I picked it up from. It might have been like Gary V or someone, but I read somewhere or I saw somewhere or something, I can't remember exactly where, but I picked up some knowledge that you can post things from other people and you kind of gain kudos from sharing it.
Yeah.
So I every day I would just search for some kind of content to do with logo design. It wasn't what I created. It
You're just
was
curating logo
just
based.
curating
Yeah.
logo based information. And I've read loads of articles about what people do where they write their own description and stuff like that. But I didn't do any of that. I just went out. There was a handful of sites that I knew had good blog posts. So, like Creative Block, Logo Design Love, like Jacob Cass used to put out a lot of stuff. There was
Shout
like
out.
all these
Shout out.
handful of
I like
good
him. I
people.
like him.
Yeah. So there was a handful of good places where I knew to look. So I just go on there. I'd find a good article. I'd save an image from it. I would do all this on my phone, like in the morning. I'd save the image from the page. I'd copy the URL. I'd copy the title, put it all together, and post it. And tag the people in that did it. And yeah, I just do that every day. And
And that
sometimes I'd write my own stuff and put that in. But in general, most of the time, it was just Google searching content and sharing that, or
and that's how
sharing.
you would build community and build relationships, slowly
Yeah,
just sharing other people's stuff
yeah, and commenting on other people's things, and
and taking the
yeah,
initiative to engage. Like I think there's so much gold baked into this story that I'm just trying to like extract as little one-liner nuggets for people to be like, yeah, you're telling your story, but there's so many good things that you're doing that I don't think people understand. Like the daily show up routine over time and giving value and putting something out there that people actually could care about or find some substance in that still
yeah,
aligns
yeah,
with like what you're
yeah,
interested
yeah,
in. It's just
yeah,
slow. It's a slow build. I love your
yeah. But
story.
I've been blown away by the 2 or 3 opportunities that come up each year. So early on, like being invited to be on the jury for an award, and I was judging work from like moving brands. It was big brands. I was reading these case studies and stuff. I had access to their proper entries, which was incredible. And uh, early on, because it was new for me and I was all excited, I went to the in-person judging things, and you get to know people. And I remember at the awards event, I met Simon Manchip from Someone. I got to know him in person, which is an incredible opportunity in its own right. And another thing is because I guess I got started to get known for sharing logo design content early on. I think it was like in the first couple of years, I got invited to be a judge on Logoland, which blew my mind. And so I got to know Bill Gardner. Like when I knew Bill really well. I used to watch. I used to read his trend report every year. To me, he was like some kind of god. And I remember when he called me, and we had like an hour-long conversation. And now I see him as a friend. And it's just been phenomenal. Like things like that. And if if I didn't keep doing all this stuff, I wouldn't even be on this podcast now. This podcast now is an example of one of those opportunities. And that's all pretty much come off the back of um, posting on social media. It becomes like a domino effect. Like you keep
It is.
knocking these
The
things
more you
down. You
show
just
up,
do
the
gradual
more,
things.
yeah, the more opportunities will come your way. So we got started around 2012ish, 2014, you really started gaining traction when you got that award. When were you able to first take that part-time shift to pursue Logo Geek part-time and then your day job part-time?
Okay, so this was a drag because Logo Geek was doing really well quite early on. So when I say early on, like say like 3 or 4 years after doing all these bits and pieces, I was getting I'd be sat at work, my phone kept ringing, just kept ringing through the day, And it was pretty much every time I picked up, it's like, can you help me with a logo? And it's like, I can't, I'm at work. And I get inquiries, and there was times when I get like 10 inquiries come in, which is just
Wow.
insane. And there was a long time where I'd go to work and I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, I can't keep doing both. I kept saying it, I can't keep doing both. And I kept thinking, yeah, I need to give up one of these. And my plan as a career was just to have a job as a designer, work my way up, go work for like a London agency or something, and then keep working my way up. I didn't really, had never really thought at all that I could become my own boss. Like that was never something I ever considered uh, quite early on. So I was stuck between these two things, choosing, and I kept going home, and I'd talk about it at home, and be like, I think I need to give up one of these. I decided to give up Logo Geek, and then like I'm like, no, I've put too much work into it. I'm not giving it up, and it was like this constant for a couple of years
Inner
of
conflict.
like I'm too busy. This is too stressful. There's just too much going on. I can't have this stressful job and then come home and have this second stressful job that I couldn't get away from. It was, I just kept thinking, yeah, I'll give that up. But I'm not deleting the website. I'll leave it there. But it just meant that the problem didn't go away. I just had this too. And then life went on, and what really gave me the push was quite a personal thing. So my mum, she had vascular dementia, and she ended up going into a home, and she eventually passed away.
Mm.
And that was, for me, seeing her get old and being in a home with older people at the end of their life. And I think at the same time there was songs in the charts, and there was videos I see online, like about, you're going to die one day. I can't remember what the song is, but there was one song that came about at the time where it kind of went from, you're a kid to a teenager to 20s to 30s to 40s to 50s, and then God, and it made me think, I don't want to regret not doing something, because what if I get to like 80 and I haven't done anything,
You're on your deathbed and you're like, what the
Yeah, and
hell?
I'd
Why
be
didn't I
like,
do
why
that?
didn't I do anything? So that kind of gave me the kick that I needed, and I thought, I don't want to regret anything, and I just thought to myself, I'm just going to hand him a notice. I just made my mind up. I'm going to hand him a notice, and uh,
Because
yeah.
what were you making with Logo Geek at that time? If you could share any kind of transparent numbers
Um,
when you're about to hand in this notice.
well, at that time it was completely on the side, but say like £10,000 a year, something like that.
Okay.
It was, so it was okay money, but not
But
anywhere
you were
near
having to
enough
say
to.
no to a lot
Yeah, I
of
was saying
requests.
no to pretty much everything that came in.
Yeah.
I just couldn't respond to anything, so it wasn't. I could see that it was. I probably would have been okay, but I went into work, handed in my notice. I've been in this company for a long time, so I'd become like part of the furniture. Like I said, I was on the board of directors, and the owners of the company, they were gutted, and pulled me into the office as they do. And one of the first things the the company owner said to me, he said, "Would you consider part time?" It was one of the first things he said when I went in the room, and I thought, yeah, okay. Because it made sure that I still had income,
You
but
still had
I
a safety
also,
net. Yeah.
yeah, had guaranteed income still, but I also had time, and I needed time. So we agreed that I would stay there 3 days a week. And we slightly adjusted like the type of work that I would be doing. So I would only work on like the larger projects, and yeah, I did that for nearly 3 years. But during those 3 years, I was going through lots of changes in my personal life because at the same time, uh, uh, when I decided to take that jump, yeah, it was I also separated from a long-term relationship. So I had a lot of stuff going on, personal life. But I also uh, I relocated as well at that time because I lived in Reading at that time, and the company where I worked, they had offices in a town outside Manchester, and I never really looked up north in the UK, and I think I needed to go up there for a meeting. And my boss, he showed me this flat he bought, and it was like £40,000. This flat, which is just like, I asked him if I can have a look. So just to put into perspective, there was we was looking at properties at that time, and like a 2-bed flat in Reading was about 200,000, and this was 40,000, which is ridiculously cheap. So that kind of planted seeds about moving. So that 3 years where I was part time, I was making all these changes at home in my personal life, like I relocated, and um, but I also bought a house. I got in a property ladder, moved up north because it was a lot cheaper. So it was one of the other great things that I wanted to do because
Did you
I
increase your rates big time now that you opened up your schedule in a sense part
yeah,
time now
yeah.
and the demand was there? You're saying no more than you could say yes. So like
Yeah, but
rates jumped
also,
up.
sorry for going off track a little bit, but because I relocated, I was renting a place in Reading, which is just outside of London. Like it was central of the town. I could get into London in 30 minutes. I relocated. My living costs reduced huge amounts, and I could keep my same job that was part time.
So you gave yourself
So
even a bigger raise potentially.
yes,
Yeah.
so I suddenly had uh, higher income. I could have lived comfortably off the 3-day a week salary. So financially, I was comfortable at that point. So I could pretty much take on any project that I wanted, and it was just extra income. But yes, early on, to talk about money again, early on, I mentioned like some of these early projects were like £50. Then I gradually increased it to about 500, and now I've done a couple of projects for a few thousand now, and I probably wouldn't go below that now. It's just not
Yeah, for me, a
worth it.
minimum for you would be like a 5 grand project just to work with Logo Geek, you know, like
I'm
five
not
grand
quite
or
there. I'm not.
oh man, I
I'm
feel
not
like
quite
you
there
are
because a lot
there.
of it's like head.
Get out of your head, Win. You, yeah, you got look at everything you've built. So, what I really, so we built this timeline. Talk about making the transition to full time as of last year, and what I really want to provide people now is like steps that you put in place before you made that shift to full time, and like an advice or timeline you would recommend from your experience,
Yeah.
because not many people get to take the leap on their own terms and blaze this path like you've done. Like for me, I was kind of forced into making that leap.
Mm,
I wasn't ready, but I was prepared because I treated my side hustle like it was my full time grind. It was just this mindset every day. This is already it's like I had 2 day jobs, even though technically I
mhm,
didn't,
mhm.
but I treated it like that. But it's not often people are in control of when they get to risk it for the biscuit, you know, and take that self employed full time leap on their own terms. So when did you know it was finally time to make that time, and then we'll kind of wrap this portion up about like
Sure,
your recommendations for other people to make that shift.
sure. So I suddenly had time to work on my own projects, and something I started at that point was a podcast. And prior to doing this, uh, I've always suffered from quite bad anxiety. So the
Same.
idea of doing a podcast is horrifying. It was terrifying at that point. But I after my mum passed away, I had this weird like I'm not saying no to anything anymore. I it totally changed me. So I got invited to be a co-host on a podcast, and I said yes. And we did like 10 episodes together, and I found out from podcast, they said early on, we got a sponsor for this we got a sponsor for this podcast. It's not much money, but you get something at the end of it. And I thought not much money was maybe like a couple of £100. I thought not much money was genuinely not much money, but it turned out for like 10 episodes, there was a sponsorship of like $5,000, which I think is a lot of money for
Really? For 10
all we
episodes?
did.
Wow.
All we
And a
did
new
was
podcast?
yeah, it was a brand new podcast, and all
the
we
hell?
did was got together, three of us, and we spoke about it. But I mean, the money was used on to pay for like show notes, to pay for hosting and stuff like that. So we got a little bit of money at the end of it, each of us. And I would have done it for free, but it was nice to get that. And then one of the other, there was three of us, and one of the other co-hosts, they did their own podcast with the same company as a sponsor, and they got the same amount of money. And I'm like, I said to both of these guys, like, do you think if I did my own thing, I could get that same amount? And they're like, Ian, you got like a massive following on Twitter, of course. And I'd actually been reached out by this company. I mentioned it, FreshBooks.
FreshBooks, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like waiting for the big old FB here.
Yeah, yeah. So FreshBooks actually reached out to me a few years prior to me doing a podcast. But to be honest, I ignored that email. I didn't get back to it. I didn't think it was anything worth bothering with. And after finding this out, I thought, I need my own podcast. I need to do my own podcast. And I'd actually done a couple of bits previously. So I was a co-host on those shows. But even before that, I started doing solo episodes to help with anxiety, because I had therapy to help with it. And hit and record kind of emulated the feeling of anxiety. So I'd done a few bits before, but I thought maybe I can do like this interview show. And the first guest I managed to book in was Aaron Draplin. Never recorded an episode in my life.
Wow.
And,
it took
Aaron
me 4
Draplin,
years to get the guts to even have him on the show. So
but yeah, I mean, being transparent, it didn't go very well. I had technical issues. I think the first question I asked him was, "What's the weather like?" That didn't go on the actual thing. My internet cut out because I didn't have very good internet. But yeah, I mean, I cobbled together an episode. Thankfully, all of Aaron's bits was all nicely recorded. So I just, and I don't know how many people know this, but basically, I cut out all the bits that was good from Aaron, and I re-recorded my bits in between. So it just sounded great. So there wasn't any of the anxiety there. There wasn't any of the where I messed up and so on. But yeah, that was episode one kind of cobbled together. And so anyway, my point is I made an income, another source of income from a podcast. And prior to going full time, I'd done like 5 seasons where I'd been able to get a sponsor. And then at the end of last year, FreshBooks agreed to sponsor 6 months worth of content.
wow,
24 episodes in one go.
You've made a lot more money off your podcast in a short amount of time compared to me.
It's the podcast has made a fair amount of money, surprisingly, but they wrote out a check for a lot of money at the end of last year. So I had that. So I had this check coming. I hadn't been paid yet, but I knew at the end of last year I had this coming. So I had that source of income. I'd also been doing a lot of affiliate-based marketing, and I've had I'll put some figures out there again. So fairly consistently from affiliate marketing in the last couple of years, around £1,000 a month consistently. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but generally
That's solid.
A decent income. So the combination of having inquiries coming in and having the sponsorship coming in from the podcast, and also having affiliate marketing coming in, I had a fairly predictable income. And I also, because FreshBooks paid in one go, had a safety net. it was a nice check to have. Yeah, it's a lot of
So
work,
you had all
but
these things in place, and that's when you knew like it's time to spread my
yeah,
wings. And
yeah, and also personally, I'd bought a house. It was all, all finally sorted. I met someone new, so I met my partner, and she'd moved in, and we had a baby together last year. Not last year, it was the year before.
Mhm.
The time's gone fast, but yeah, we had the little one, and I got to this point where I knew I needed to leave that job a long time ago, but I kind of kept it because it was comfortable. It was easy work. I just went in, got on with it, went home, done, got a guaranteed um, salary. But I had days when I'd sit there and I'd get affiliate things coming in on my email, and for doing nothing,
That's
I
the
made
best
more
feeling.
money at
It's
home.
the best
I
feeling.
made more money at home than I did sitting in that job. And I'm like, what am I doing? I literally thought to myself, what am I doing? And the projects got boring. None of it was any real benefit to me. Like I never put any of it in a portfolio.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I just I just remember, I think I went to lunch one day, and I sat down with a calculator and I worked out how much money I made a day and how much money I would need to make in a week to replace that job. And I was slightly mortified by how small amount of money it was. I literally needed 2 logo projects a month to replace that job.
And the
And
inquiries are there.
yeah, yeah, and they were there. And so I just decided, and it was after Christmas. So I had 2 weeks off over Christmas, got to spend time with the little one. And I just kept having this thing where I'd go to work, and then like my partner would send me videos and photos of the little one. And I just thought, I could be at home, I could watch my little one grow up, and uh, I just felt like it was the right time for me. Even I think I could have done it a long time ago, but there was something about January where it just felt like the right thing to do, both for me personally and for that company where I worked at. Because, um,
They weren't getting the full Ian.
yeah, I mean, I was half in, half out, and also they'd started to do some restructuring, and I don't know. I don't know if I was getting pushed out, but they changed the restructure and they put me. I used to be like a manager of my team, and they put me under one of the account managers, which made sense. They done that to free up the other directors because basically they had this issue where they become bottlenecks. And it was also that restructuring. I just thought, yeah, I think it would be better for me and for them if I just leave now, because it seemed, this restructuring just seemed like the right time for me to step away, because I've been there for over 10 years. And yeah, it just seemed like the right time in every possible way. So I took the leap, and I have not regretted it at all. It's been
Regret probably
absolutely
not
fun.
doing it sooner like I do, you know? Okay. Well, let's pivot to rapid fire, but I want to bring kind of a question I wanted to ask, and let's summarize this, a quick maybe 3 to 5 things. What advice or what 3 to 5 things would you recommend someone from your experience others put into play if they're considering making the full-time leap as well?
Okay, I think one of the
Just quick
most
hitters.
important
Yeah.
things is to have a very clear goal. So read the book The One Thing,
Gary
and
Keller?
have this, yeah, have this somewhere out there goal, and keep walking towards your goal. Don't go off course. The moment you look at shiny pennies, you're going off course. Keep walking towards that. You will get there. Tiny actions every day get you to where you want to be. That's how success works. Doing things each day. So that's number one. I think it depends on your personal situation. Like me, I have a mortgage. My partner is a stay-at-home mom. I have to make money, otherwise we're screwed. So I had a safety net. and I was able to save up about 5 to 6 months worth of salary. If we just did the bare minimum, we would probably be okay for about 6 months. So if for whatever reason I couldn't get any clients for 6 months, we would be okay. And if the worst happened, I would just get another job. So I knew that was an option. Also, I think prior to going full time, I think you need inquiries coming in already.
Demand.
So yeah, so having it depends what you're doing, but I'm assuming people watching this, probably graphic designers, artists, and so on. I would have a website in place with a portfolio, with case studies, and a contact page. I think you need that in place prior to taking that leap. So I've heard a lot of people speak about like the overlap technique. I think Sean Wes coined that term, where you don't just uh, um, quit a job and then start again. That's suicide, because getting clients from nothing is hard. But if
Agreed.
you have a website with examples of the type of work that you want to do that you can show to people, then you have a higher chance of attracting work. So I would personally get to that point where you have equity in something so that you can build on something. Very much like you did. I know that you was
I overlapped hard.
yeah. So you was you lost your job, but prior to that, you already had your own brand established. You already had something there. So you didn't just leave and have to start. You had something already that you could build upon. And
Five
I
and a
think
half
you
years
need
of
that.
figuring out what it was, though, from freelance to this to this to this to all of a sudden coaching. Like, it was not a
Yeah,
straight
but
journey of all just logo design. It was all over the place.
Why I've I've worked on lots of different projects over the years. Like prior to working on Logo Geek, I worked on loads of projects that just never went
And
anywhere.
web too, like
Yeah. I've done computer games, animations, all sorts of stuff prior to um, uh, focusing on logo design. And I think it's just been because I've seen it grow. I've seen it growing, and it's
and you enjoyed it. Most importantly, it wasn't like a forced
yeah.
burdensome, I
But
think.
I would say because it's kept growing. Even now, there are times when I think to myself, I should start a separate agency doing this or this or this. And
I should start
I'm
another side
constantly,
hustle.
yeah, and I'm constantly drawn back to you that I should continue on this journey that I've formed for myself, because I know that what I built now is primed to create books and courses and all this sort of stuff. It's just there ready to be created, and constantly got this in the back of my mind. It's like, no, don't start your own like Ian Paget brand. Just
No
focus
shiny
on this.
object, man. You have an empire. And one of the questions I was going to ask, but we're kind of running out of time here. But I like knowing that you have your eyes set on these different channels and branches of the Logo Geek tree. Okay,
Mhm.
I think that's really good. Just to summarize those, have that one thing that you're focusing on. Have that safety net, 5 to 6 months of salary, or I hear it for me, it was like 3 to 6 months of expenses covered,
Yeah.
and then making sure you have demand for what you're doing, not just going out there cold, jumping into it like, screw it, I'm just going to take the risk. I haven't built anything up. I don't have inquiries. I don't have leads. I'm just jumping into it. That is scary. I mean, some people, maybe it works, but for me, I'm more of like a calculated risk taker, which I think you are too.
Yeah, and like I said, it depends on your situation. If you
Yeah.
happen to be at home with like parents, then use that opportunity. You can some people have that opportunity to take that leap, but if it depends on your situation, like both of us here, we need to have that
Mm-hmm.
we
And
need to have
even in a
expenses
tip
covered.
to throw into, make sure you have multiple kind of streams of income. Could be like a bonus ad. If you can build your side hustle to where you have multiple streams, it makes it a little bit easier because there's just not one day job source you're relying on. And that's what really
Yeah.
helped me out too.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, maybe next time we ever get on an episode, we can just go deep on like building this and monetizing your craft so you can take the leap. I feel like that would be a killer
Yeah, sure.
episode in itself. My favorite one, if you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be?
Oh my God. That's so hard. I wish I remember the name of it, but there was a specific pizza that I always want my partner to buy. It's got like chicken and yeah, I'm rubbish at giving answers to this type of thing, but it's kind of like a chicken type pizza.
Chicken type. That's
That would
okay.
do.
That's okay. Okay.
I have meat on it in some way.
Who's your favorite Pokemon and what generation?
Oh my God. Probably is it Gyarados?
Gyarados, yeah.
Yeah.
Level 20 for that magic
I got a shiny the other day.
Nice.
Yeah, they did this whole big event where like Magikarp just kept popping up and popping up and popping up everywhere. And I caught about 5 shinies and evolved it, so I got the red one.
Nice. I can't play that game yet anymore. I can't pick it up yet, but mine's a Generation 1 Charizard all day. That's always been my favorite. I got like 10 of those holographic Generation 1 like mint conditions. So sitting on a fat stack of Generation 1 stuff.
My partner winds me up about it because you have to collect 400 candy, and so you have to collect loads and loads of Magikarp. But there was this one time where we was out somewhere and we was waiting for a friend and we were sat in the car and I am like, I need one more candy. And I said, can I go for a walk? So I went for like a 2-mile walk whilst my partner was waiting in the car, and I come back and I could evolve my Magikarp. Quite exciting.
A short 2-mile walk that takes about 45 minutes.
I pretty much ran it.
That's hilarious. Okay, another one. If you could have lunch with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I think I would love to spend some proper time with like Sagi Haviv, talking more about his process. I found him on my podcast, but there's so much golden nuggets that he can learn. Yeah, you can learn a lot from him.
Okay. Do you believe in aliens or any outside life forms in our solar system?
I think it's insane to think that there isn't any form of life outside of the planet Earth. I think it's ridiculous to think that there isn't that, because the universe is so large. It's inevitable that there is life in some way.
But if someone doesn't want to choose to believe it, that's okay. That's their
right. I mean, I'm not saying I think it's probably very rare that there is intelligent life like us, but microbes, bacteria, it's everywhere. It should
be. That's a very logical side of it for sure. Okay. Where can people go to follow you online and support you? And then make sure you plug the Logo Designers box set as well.
Okay, so I'm pretty much everywhere now as @Logo Geek. There was a point where it wasn't like that, but now logogeek.com, logogeek.co.uk.uk. But anyway, so on every social platform, it's just Logo Geek as one word. And I do have a box set of 6 ebooks called the Logo Designers box set, which is totally free to download. And it's 6 books that goes into different areas of logo design. So if you're into logo design or graphic design in any way, that should be useful for you. And it's free, but it's in exchange for an email address, as I'm sure
it's a killer, insanely valuable lead magnet. So
yeah,
Ian, this was great getting to finally dive deep into your story. There's so much gold in here. And what I'm a big believer in philosophy of teaching that slow and steady grind and doing it grassroots style and doing it right and building an audience around it and a diehard community, learning your value, and charging what you're worth over time and finding new ways to monetize your gift. Dude, you're the spitting image of it. And I'm so grateful for your time today.
You're very welcome. It's been an honor to come on, and thanks for asking such good questions.
Man. Had to return the favor. All right. Well, have some fun playing some Pokemon Go, and have a good day, brother. Peace.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.